Alrighty, so I do know how to count, week 6 in CIT94 Node.js. And the one thing I forgot to talk about last week that I've linked into your Dev Zero is a style guide. So I'm going to actually go over it in this video, but I also released yesterday on class chat, which I think a couple of you saw, the the sign up sessions for your code reviews. And I looked at your work from last night, and it looked like you got what I was looking for as far as running the first half of the callbacks. Actually, so I'm glad I mentioned that. It's going to go in my style guides. Is for this round to do asynchronous calls. We're using callbacks. I want you to use that programming paradigm for this coming work. Anyway, sorry, but you got the idea of what we are looking for, which is that you have that callback fire again when you don't get the condition that you were looking, like when the data comes back. So it looks like you guys got that, which is awesome, right? And I did kind of show you the example too of putting undefined on the first request so that when it comes back, it knew what to do with it. Alrighty, so let me just go over this real quick. So I took this and I think actually Tim might be the only one taking my JS class right now, so it's similar to what that was. But use constant let, don't use var, use module.exports for your code wherever it makes sense. On the API stuff, we're also using that, so it really is for all the work you're going to be submitting. Use const for function declaration and arrow functions, right? Unless you have a good reason not to. And then I just give you an example here of what those function definitions need to look like. The other thing is make sure you're formatting your code in VS Code. It has a wonderful function to do it. You can just right click, select all, and do format selection. Use camel case for variable and function declarations. On your file names, only use lowercase, no spaces. Right, most of your code needs to be in a function. There's often not, like yards would be the exception in that case, although those are actually functions that you're calling. You're just setting up an object to send to it, right? And this is more in the class space, right? So for class learn togethers, you can submit just a link, but it's on your lectures that you actually do this. And actually, this doesn't apply to you guys. So I'll take rid of that. And then I'll put in here, oh, and then also, right, you're going to have multiple branches, outcomes flow through based on logic. So make sure you test all those branches and then use callbacks for HTTP in this case, but really it's only asynchronous calls we've been doing, right? So HTTP calls API, right? So I'll include that. So I've linked both of these things into the Dev Zero. I talked about them on the, let me just bring you back here, on the video for Dev Zero, right? So make sure you're checking that out. And then while we're here, do know that because it is a campus holiday Monday and today, but I don't feel that today. You may not either. I don't know your schedule. But for this one, we could do it together, but just know I do move them a day forward always. And so you're going to finish, in this case, that section 7 for this part. So then I just move it to the following day. Okay. But again, there's a big incentive this week to working ahead as much as possible, mostly because, and I know Kate got this because, the sooner you come see me, the better it's going to be. Because it makes you front load your time for getting the code done, and coming to see me then gives you an opportunity to fix it. If you're seeing me after the due date, then it's as is. And if you're seeing me after this schedule, then it does get some points marked off as well. So just make sure if you have any questions about this, and again, this is a very small class right now, so asking questions, really in any size class, but for sure in here. Okay. So I think that's about it for this week. I will also put a link up for the International Women's Day celebration on March 7th down at Bitwise and a code for students to get a discount. So if you're interested in that, uh, everyone's welcome. We're going to do there's going to be a maker space. I think I'm giving a introduction to React because I'm teaching it right now. So it's easy to give an introduction to it. And so anyway, the point is, just know what's happening in town, around town related to this topic. Find community. It really helps. Reach out when you need help. And I look forward to seeing your code next week. Oh, one thing did want to mention, one thing I mentioned in the Dev Zero was that if you're using any of the API calls we've already seen, which is the two from Andrew and then the one from random user me, those don't count to the two if you're writing code for the second option. So come up with something else. Now, if you do use it, great. That's fine. You would just have three calls, three API calls, right? Which shouldn't be that hard to do. And I say that, but I know it adds a level of complexity. So FYI, remember you have two options there. Again, it's really based on your own desire for how you want to approach that. Let me know if you have any questions. Have a wonderful weekend. I say that knowing that I know there's some work you got to do for this class. So manage your time accordingly. Enjoy the weather if ever possible, and your friends and family, and whatever that looks like. Peace.